Seems that we're live now. So this time, just for the tech stuff, I'm trying to check on another computer if it works. I hope it will. There's always a lag, but anyway, this time I won't bother you with my tech stuff, and I'll assume that it works. Okay, still don't see it on the other side, but anyway, I hope you can hear me. Okay, cool. So what do we got? Give me one sec. Okay, not this. Okay, so I mean, I think that this one will be probably shorter. You know, I always promise every week that I will be shorter, but I'm never. I am never. But this time should be because there was not much to chew this week. So hopefully I'll get that in time. Let me check one thing. Okay, sorry about that. So I don't see it working on my other computer, but it did last week. So I will assume that it actually works. Give me one other. Okay, no. I mean, if it doesn't work here on LinkedIn, you can always view it, and I put a link on for YouTube. This is streamed to both LinkedIn and YouTube. So let's start right now. I have my coffee. I already had my croissant. So I guess we're ready. So let's go. So geopolitics, you've seen the aftermath of the debate last week. That was pretty funny. I won't elaborate much about it. However, there was an article this week by Politico saying that I think this is nothing new, but if elected, that Trump may refuse NATO expansion to the east, and withdraw security guarantees from for alliance countries spending less than 2% of GDP on defense. You know that the 2% GDP on defense is what every country is supposed to contribute to the NATO budget. Of course, at least this is what I've been used to, specifically in Europe. Almost all, I believe, European countries do not contribute to that 2% of GDP, which was already an issue back when he was president between 2016 and 2020. He already had warned European countries that it was an issue that had to be fixed. So basically, he's just repeating this, also saying that he would not expand NATO to the east, which is a requirement actually to have peace in Europe and with Russia. So again, that is not really surprising. I think that it's two opposing views of the world. You have the current administration view, which is the global empire, with the United States the only dominant force in the world. Now Trump is more focused, I would say. So the one that sees this negatively would say isolationist as opposed to globalist, and I see this more focused on the U.S. population issues that very often. So seeing this from a foreign perspective, um, uh, Americans don't really care much about what's outside the US, to be honest. And so, which makes it understandable that they don't understand why they would spend that money to Ukraine, which is already kind of a lost war anyway. So basically, that's the plan. So Politico tries to make it like something new and dangerous. It's not. This is something that he announced already when he was president before, and that would, when Trump said that he would bring back peace in Ukraine within 24 hours, basically that would be because this is what Putin is asking for. This is what he has warned against since the early 2000s, not NATO expanding to the east, and this is what basically NATO has been doing since then, until reaching Ukraine, which is the last buffer that between NATO and Russia that Russia didn't want to lose. So basically, yes, can he bring peace back in Ukraine? Yes, there is the lost regions in Ukraine uh, that has been invaded by Russia that would be permanently lost. You have to remember that these regions are Russian-speaking population that has been bombed since the 2014 coup in Ukraine, and these regions, because the different ethnicity and were against the coup that happened in Kiev at that time, wanted to have more autonomy, and obviously, obviously or not, I mean, this has been refused, and this is how by the central power, and this is how Kiev had started bombing these regions, this Russian people region. So again, now Russia considers it as part of Russia anyway, with Crimea. They are unlikely to give that back without a fight. So I think that if Trump would come in power, that would mean freezing basically the situation to the Russian regions on the east, Ukraine not joining NATO, and if that's the basis of an agreement, this could be done in a very short time. Now this takes us into kind of dangerous territory, because again, that's an opposing view to the global administration. So if you want to keep the status quo, either the current administration and the military-industrial complex, who would want to continue this war to make more money. This means that we obviously, well, at least these guys need an escalation of the conflict before the election. So, as you know, the idea of a peace can be seen as something positive. At the same time, this is a risk as well. Just a quick check on the live. I don't know, it just doesn't seem to work on my other computer. Okay, so let's assume it works. Okay. I mean, I see a comment by oh no, it works. I mean, it's really weird, but anyways. So I know it works now. So Henrik, just anyone speaking German here? So I try my German. Henrik, ich weiß, was Arschloch means. Verstehen? No, I don't know. So my German sucks. Anyway, but so for Liebes Französischen, Arschloch is a nice, not nice things, but I take it for on the nice side. It's always funny. So I will stop digressing. So yes, I was saying that we kind of need an escalation from there. It won't. I mean, again, it puts us at risk at this point, and we will see what happens. So a quick review of the geopolitical situation. Russia is making progress little by little, progressively. There's no big advance, but they're making progress. Ukraine has announced mass mobilization of women, which is basically when you are desperate. So again, it has to be linked back to what I was saying last week to about Zelensky asking for potential peace agreement, considering peace at least at this point. I mean, that kind of situation, you only consider peace when you are about to lose, which is probably what they are feeling right now. Um, so yes, I wanted to add a couple of things, but we'll skip that. It's not really important. What else? No, now Israel. Why this ship? Because it's a U.S. Navy ship that has entered the Mediterranean. What's the name again? I had the name of this, the USS Wasp. That is headed to the Mediterranean Sea, because you've seen the tensions with the Hezbollah in South Lebanon and Israel has risen. So again, the conflict is moving from Gaza to South Lebanon, which is the main concern by the US of an extension of the conflict, as and the Hezbollah still continues to fire rockets and missiles towards Israel. And so, if the conflict escalates, again, Iran has a vow to get involved in the conflict. And at the same time, something that I thought was interesting is that, so you've seen that the Houthis in Yemen are controlling the Red Sea and are trying to attack basically Western's asset in the Red Sea. Now Russia has mentioned that they would provide Houthis with more weapons and potential missiles. So I think that's the first step of Russia joining that part of the conflict, a real step into joining that part of the conflict in that region. And what does it mean is that compared to Ukraine, where the conflict is fading, you have around Israel US military coming. And then you have on the other side, if it's confirmed, Russia military coming. So it would come obviously to help the Houthis, and then furthermore after that would help Iran. So this would give us a potential direct confrontation between the US and Russia, which was not the case in Ukraine. So de-escalation could potentially come from the Middle East rather than Ukraine. It will probably not be able to be justified on the population in the US anyway. Sending troops in Ukraine, it's more likely to be justifiable. Having a war in Israel, and it's a much smaller. It's a much smaller. Space area. So we'll see, but that will be, development will be interesting to follow. And the interesting thing is that, again, the conflicts are getting connected between Ukraine now and Israel, and it gives us the potential, a possibility of direct conflict between Russia and the United States. So I had something, I believe, you know what? I may not be as fast as I thought I would be. China now, you say maybe blunt admission by a general, U.S. general, that the issue is that the U.S. Army relies on Chinese supply for its army. And it's insane because, like, in the article that we see, they are provided. So China is providing critical technology and raw materials using everything from air-to-air missiles to fighter jet. So imagine that the conflict's expanding, and then China cuts the supply, because obviously they would be on the other side. Um, that's not looking good. If you ask me, that's the results of decades of sending everything to China because it was cheaper. And after going back to what I was saying at the beginning, after the fall of the Eastern Bloc, Russia, all the communist country, the US thought that they were the only last leading power in the world, and never actually thought that Russia and China may be developing to the point they are now. And so now that the US has been massively deindustrialized, so we've seen that in the economy part very often. Well, basically we're kind of screwed, right? Unless we start reindustrializing the US, which I believe Trump had trial started to do. But that reindustrializing country take decades to do. So if I think that's a big deal. Now the other thing is that there was also a comment that China is installing bases, or how do you call this in English? It's not really military bases, but it's communication interception units in Cuba that could be used to intercept confidential information, specifically for American military bases, spaceport, military, commercial assets, basically anything. I won't go again into all the China land that they have bought around military bases in the US. That's insane that the country lets a foreign country potentially, competing, and a country that you can be at war doing this. Something that I didn't mention a couple of weeks ago was that there was a law, I don't remember the state, but there was a law that was proposed in a state to prevent foreign country to buy land in around military bases. And this law had been vetoed by one of the senators of the state. I mean, that's totally insane. And that just tells you the level of corruption that we have in this country. Basically, most politicians are selling out their country to foreign enemies. So that's insane to me, but that's basically where we are right now. So I mean, this is another thing that I said the other day, is that basically now Russia and China are doing to the US what the US is doing to them, which means installing military or semi-military bases close to the US. Not a big deal. I think we can still. I had a couple of other things. Yeah, maybe. Um, I mean, it will be a concern just because, again, the debt, which is the main issue in France, will probably be attacked, which means that the French government would not be able to pay its creditor, specifically. So the issue is that more than half of the debt in France, for instance, is held by foreign investors. So there was BlackRock. So Larry Fink was visiting Macron right before the election. I think the strategy of Macron is chaos at this point, which means that he made an alliance with the far left party just to prevent the other right wing party to be the leading force in the parliament. So basically, what is playing is chaos, a totally uncontrollable country and government, and you've probably seen, or you don't. I mean, you've seen the market reacting positively to that, obviously, because they see this as a lesser evil than the right wing party actually winning the election. We had a similar situation in the UK. Although I don't know much about the politics in the UK. One thing is that we see basically all across Europe that the parties and the leaders that have supported the war in Ukraine basically are getting ousted at this point. So that's the kind of, what I was saying. You had Boris Johnson out, you had Liz Truss out, you had Richie Sunak out, and probably, the next one will be Biden. Macron will be his last chance is actually not. So it will present this as a win if the right wing party has not the global majority in the parliament. But I mean, the natural thing to do, at least in the philosophy of the French institutions, is that he should be leaving the presidency. He won't, but that's what he should do. And that's how it was written by the General de Gaulle back in I think 58, no 68. Anyway, so basically that's where we are now. We'll skip to a little part of the economy. There was not much to say on the economy anyway, just that finally the Atlanta Fed is starting realizing that the GDP was kind of overinflated. Now they forecast a GDP of 1.7% in the US. It was forecasted at 4.2 less than 7 weeks ago. So you have the GDP forecast being reduced. Third month in a row. So that's interesting. So you have the 5 sub indices of the PMI that went in contraction territory, and the inflationary pressure have evaporated, obviously, because when the activity is contracting, that's a kind of a natural result. And then the slower price increase, still increasing. I mean, lower inflation doesn't mean that your price are reduced, but it rises not as fast. This is only what it means. So now, I mean, basically what was potentially one of the primary objective, which was to kill the job market, to tame inflation. And this is what we've seen. The jobless claims are rising, are on the rise. The unemployment rate rose to 4%, which is the first time in 2 years. And you have also the ratio of job openings to unemployed people. It was 2 until very recently. Now it's only 1.2. I mean that's also concerning. The job market is kind of softening, which again is a good good thing for a lower inflation, and probably the reason why the market rallies as well, because lower expectation for inflation makes more potential for rate cuts in the situation of a recession to support the economy. It's very often as simple as that. So the job openings have been decreasing rapidly, as you see on the big chart. And this actually happened only recently over the last 20 years, on 2000, 2008, 2020, in periods of recessions. So that's probably where we're going at this time. But the worst part, I mean, it's probably different, a little bit different this time, because consumers right now have run out of excess saving, because there's no protection. There's no safety net for the population, and the population now is holding record levels of credit card debt. So that won't go very well, if you ask me. So yes, I mean, I'm already at the market, which means that I'm going much faster than usual. So you don't have any question, that's fine. I always say that I want to have questions, but I guess that if you don't have question, that's probably fine. I'm starting getting used to it, to be honest. I know most of you are there, but you are either quiet or don't have questions. But since you come back, I mean, I guess you you get some interest in that. Anyways, something that you already know, that most of the market has been pulled by Nvidia and the tech sector. What does it mean? This means that I had the numbers. Actually, yes, Nvidia is. It represents it's responsible for 30% of the rise in the S&P this year. So 30%. So the S&P has rallied by 718 point in H1, and Nvidia is Nvidia only is 280 point, and the second largest contributor is Microsoft, with only 64 points. Just to tell you how fragile the market is. At this point, it's only pulled by only one thing. You've seen at the same time that the market is going up. You can see that the hedge funds have been selling equities pretty aggressively. Most since since that what we see on the chart, which is let's say 2017. They've been selling mostly what's been rising at this time. So tech stocks, the semiconductor mainly, because these are, I mean, part of the index that have risen. I think the semiconductor has carried by 30% or 70%, probably 70%. It's insane. So when the retail is buying, hedge funds are selling. That's kind of a classic, right? So basically, that's what you see here. S&P going to the roof, with the VIX in red that is being crushed as usual. The issue is that when the VIX is being, compressed like this, it works like a rubber band. The more you stretch it, the more it will probably snap back. So we had that kind of instances when it was really contract. I mean, the really massive contraction happened in 2017. And when we had what we called at the time on the volatility, the Volmageddon on February 2018, at this point, the volatility was compressed for months, about nearly a year, even slightly more than that, until really it snapped back at this point. So this is what we are seeing. I think this is a time that, again, I mean, I say that most often, but need to be aware of the situation, and really be able to be ready to react. Because again, if you look at the term structure, it's nicely in contango, so it looks like there's no risk at this point. Everyone looks happy, but this term structure of the VIX futures needs to be looked at every single day. It can change very, very rapidly. This is not something that you check on a weekly or a monthly or even on a weekly basis. You have to look at it on really a daily basis. That can change very rapidly. So be aware of that. So keep that in mind. So again, I mean, there's only one thing rising. This is mostly equities versus the SPY. So you have the SPY rising. The only thing rising more than the SPY is the Nasdaq. Obviously, the rest is underperforming. Whatever is the Dow Jones Industrial Index, the Russell 2000 index, so the small caps, and the equities, except the US, is falling again. So basically, you mostly have the US going up, and within the US you mostly have the tech sector going up, which kind of works like a vacuum for all the world who want to invest and get some returns. Basically, that's the focus. We've mentioned also a couple of weeks ago. I remember saying that people that, in the context of the de-dollarization and countries not needing to stash their dollars into treasuries, maybe instead of getting their local currency back that they actually don't need. I mean, what's the other potential investment available that is giving some returns? You have the US market, and specifically the Nasdaq. So I have no idea how long it will play out, but so far that's the situation. A quick word about the European markets versus the S&P. So we've seen that basically European markets tracked the S&P more or less stable, I would say, all this year until June, when you had starting having the election, European election in Europe. So the yellow is France, the other one is Germany. And so obviously France, which is a bigger part, has collapsed more. Like this is what I was saying, this week. So at the beginning of this week, when they started considering an alliance between Macron and the far left parties, the market reacted positively because it would not give the left wing party the full control of the parliament, and so economic decisions. So basically, the life in France, at least economic and other social subject as well, would be kind of frozen until the next presidential election, very likely. Last but not least, a little word on Bitcoin, because everyone is getting crazy about Bitcoin getting smashed. I wanted to show you this. I mean, you have Bitcoin on the top, the current level, which is the hashed line, and at the bottom you have the Bitcoin drawdown. So what do you see here is that if you cannot support drawdowns, you should not be in Bitcoin. If you cannot support the volatility and the potential losses, even temporary, you should not be in Bitcoin. So everyone's get crazy about this 20% drawdown somehow. Yes, slightly more than 20%. At this point, the graph was made yesterday. So, well, whatever. So we are nearly in that area, 20% drawdown at this point. What I would like you to see is at least what we can see on the chart is that on the massive upside runs like 2070, 2021, and then 2023 we can see this, but the two main instances, 2017, you see that drawdown of 20% were pretty common in a massive up run. So it happened one, two, three, four, it happened 5 times before we reached the top. So it happened 5 times in this. Now in the 2021 massive run as well, and this one was much more smooth, I would say, but we had a drawdown of about 20% for 1, 2, 3 times until we reached and a little bit more than that, but the top right before it was October 2021. October, November 2021. And so what I'm trying to say here is that a drawdown of 20%, even in an up run, is not uncommon. It doesn't mean that Bitcoin will go up again. It just means that, there's no reason to get excited and to make big headlines about this, because this is common situation. So my friends, we are done for today, and this is much shorter, even this time. So I would have liked to have questions, but you don't. So that's that's pretty fine. What else I want to say to you? Yes, I haven't been very. What do I say? No, not this. I need to practice to see how this works, if you ask me. Hide. Yes. Okay. So what I wanted to say. Yes, I haven't been very active on LinkedIn recently, other than posting stupid stuff. But one is the summer. I'm working a lot on what we've been working on the past months with Henrik, who has shown me a lot of things to do about my funnel and my capital attraction strategy. So I'm working a lot on this, building this. Building the tools to be able to do this, building the message as well, because this obviously made me realize that I haven't structured my basically to potential investors. So I want to thank Henry. So I think that the connection was lost, so I will go back again. So what I was saying was that so I'm working on delivering my message more efficiently. So I will be working on this basically the whole summer to be up and ready like I've never been before on September 1st. So again, thank you, Henrik, for that, for showing me the way. I would advise anyone who wants to help structure, who needs someone to help structure their message, their strategy, to follow Henrik at this point. But I just wanted to say a quick thank you to Henrik because I had the time this time. I know you'll be leaving for probably your event in a couple of minutes. Yeah, it's been a real pleasure to work with you as well. I mean, it's not only it's great, I've been learning a lot, and it's fun. So that's great. Thank you for your time today. I wish you have a great weekend. That is really hot these days in South Carolina. Have fun. I'm going back probably to work right now because that's what I do and I love it. So have fun, enjoy, and